What is going on, everyone? Welcome to LFC Transfer Room Debate Room. What better way for both Phil and Ryan to make their debut than in a debate room where we're going to look at the players currently in the squad and we're going to decide who do we keep, who do we sell, who do we give away, who do we loan, and who's making it into the first team in 2023. Now, Phil, it's not been a great start. It's a start to the day. Obviously, it's been quite a bad day in terms of results. How are you coping after that?
It's another weekend ruined by the Reds. It just seems to be every week at this point. Like I'm just used to it now. Like, you know, just doesn't get any better every single week. I don't expect us to win anymore. If we get a draw, I'm mostly happy now, to be quite honest.
And Ryan, I mean, if you're going to lose to a goal, it's a worthy goal to lose to, isn't it?
To be fair, it's nice, isn't it? It's a nice little touch. It's a nice finish. I'm one of them, though, for me, when it comes to defending. I feel like if you'd ever, regardless of where you're blocking from 2 yards out or 20 yards out, if you turn your back to goal, do you know what I mean? It's a bit spineless to me. So I feel like Joe needs to take not full blame, because obviously other things have happened, but I feel like Joe has really sold himself there, you know, to obviously open up that opportunity for Matoma. But even so, it's still a good finish. And I mean, he's in the absolute banging form, isn't it? It looks like a baller. I don't know where they've pulled him from, but it's just what they do, Brighton.
Another brilliant Brighton find, I think. And, you know, you've got the fidget spinner in Anthony for 100 million. And who would you rather have?
You do wonder where they find these players.
Yeah, it used to be us. Do you remember when we used to find players like Andy Robertson for £8 million? Or Sammy Hippier way back when from William II. But we are where we are. We've got the squad. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the squad. You've got 5 categories, guys. You've got first 11, rotation player, loan, sell, giveaway. Okay, and we're going to go through the squad. Please, in the comments as well, if you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. But if you tell us, what do you think of this player? First 11, rotation, loan, sell, or just give them away. And we'll basically work our way through the squad, make the decisions, and give Klopp some wages to play with on transfer fees as we move into 22-23, as we potentially get rid of a few players. I mean, maybe you guys want to keep all of them. But I'm going to try and I'm going to start simple for you both, because it's your debut. Let's start easy. Ryan, Allison. First 11 rotation, loan, keep or sell. Sorry, give away.
Maybe it's time he takes a loan just purely to get away from us. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be one that stirs up debate, is it? You know, he's the best goalkeeper in the world. Even when we are in dire form and low on confidence, he still seems to be way ahead of everyone in his field. So, like the comments are saying, I think he's number one on the team sheet, isn't he? Really.
No, number one on the team sheet. Phil, I'm assuming we're going to start this off relatively easy, and you're saying first 11, Allison.
Oh, absolutely. There's no debates, but he's only player in the team that you could really say deserves to be there at the minute. Maybe one or two more, but he's the one that consistently performs. If it's not been for Allison, we'd probably lose games, but way more. So no debates there. Really stays in. No one comes near.
Okay. Now we've got into it. Now we know what we're doing. We're going to go a little bit further, and we're going to talk about Kelleher. I'll never say his first name because I can't pronounce it properly. Kelleher. First 11, rotation, loan, sell, or giveaway. Phil, I'll start with you on this one.
See, I really like Kelleher, but for the lad himself, probably I think he deserves first team football, and he's never probably going to get that with us, to be honest with you. So probably for the benefit of his career, he might have to leave. I want him to stay, but I think he does deserve first team football. So if an offer was to come in for him, I wouldn't begrudge him leaving, to be honest with you. But I don't want him to leave, to make that clear. But if it did come in, then I wouldn't have a problem with him going for that reason.
I mean, it's very noble of Phil there, Ryan. It's very noble to try and say, well, for the benefit of his career, do you know what? We have one interest, and that's Liverpool Football Club. What would you do with Kelleher?
I mean, I'd sell. I think for the benefit of Liverpool Football Club, you'd keep him as the backup, because there's probably not many better backups around than Kelleher. However, I'd sell because if we're going off the current way of how we do things and how we run things, that's a £20 million asset there that's going to play a handful of games a season, and that's depending on how far we go in the League Cup. So, if you can bring in £15-20 million for a backup goalkeeper who's only playing a couple of games a season, and you've got the likes of Harvey Davis coming through, I think under our current model, it's just a sort of, for me, it's a no-brainer. There's £20 million there, and we need surgery elsewhere in the squad than a backup goalkeeper.
So, both of you agreeing we're selling Kelleher. Nobody's really complaining in the comments, but I mean, it may come, but it looks like we're selling Kelleher. Which then leaves us with one goalkeeper before we go youth team in Adrian. Ryan, are you keeping Adrian then? Is he your rotation, or are you first 11 rotation, loan, sell, or give away?
I mean, it's an interesting one because you see a lot nowadays with modern teams that they'll have 3 goalkeepers in their setup, for training purposes, match day warm-ups, things like that. So I can get why that, there might be a case of him getting another year if we can't go and get another goalkeeper and he helps Harvey Davis coming through or something. But, again, if you've got the ability to get him off the wage bill and you've got another goalkeeper who can come in and do, on a free transfer or a small fee or something like that, and again, play third choice for a couple of years and help the young goalkeepers in Harvey Davis and that come through, then it probably makes sense, doesn't it, to remove him off the wage bill. So obviously, I believe his contract's up, isn't it? So it'd be a case of go rather than sell.
So giveaway. Well, he's got no resale value, has he?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that as well. But yeah, so for me, just be a go, yeah.
About you, Phil? Are you keeping him around, that experience, helping training?
No, to be honest with you, because based off his recent performances, which hasn't been many, but you can see he's past it. I think there's probably better backup keepers out there if they were to go and find one. So I would say release him just for the wages. Probably get someone better in, to be quite honest. So
that's it. That's the goalkeepers done. We are keeping Alisson in the first 11. We are selling Kelleher for the benefit of our business model and for his career, and we are punting Adrian into the sun, as Matt put in chat. Gino, I know you said selling Kelleher creates no problem. You need to be quick. You need to convince these guys of different options, if that's how you want to go it. But it looks like Harvey Barnes coming through. Look, not Harvey Barnes.
Harvey Davis.
It looks to be one goalkeeper position. Then we just need to find a nice, experienced reserve as we move into the next season. So let's start with defence then. We'll start with the left backs. Andy Robertson really tailed off towards the end of last season. He's been playing pretty well in recent times. I think in a mid-season Premier League 11, he actually made the team, which I was shocked about because I didn't think he was playing that good. Phil, what do you think, Andy Robertson? Where would you put him? First 11, rotation, loan, sell, or give away?
Oh, definitely first 11. He maybe has the off game from time to time, Andy Robertson, and sometimes you can see that's pretty clear. But no, there's nobody comes near him in our squad that's capable of placing him right now. And unless we were to get a worldie left back, there's no way he's not in the first 11. He is much better than Tsimikas at the minute, and I don't see Tsimikas taking over the left back spot anytime soon, being honest.
No controversy there from you straight away, Ryan. You're like, yeah. See you nodding.
Yeah, I like Simi. I think he's all right, but you want your younger backup version of that, that player to be pushing, don't you, to then become the starter? And I think if we're going to be honest, I think Robertson knows that's not going to happen, and it could be part of the complacency that's coming to his game. I've noticed this season, although his attacking performances have been similar, his defensive performances have worried me a little bit more. He seems to be a lot more conservative than he was a couple of years ago. Everything's fit 10 yards away from the player backing off. Everything's backtracking. For me personally, I think he's a worry, but it's in the back of your mind worry, if you get what I mean. So for the purpose of this video and stream and going into next season, still a starter. But I think coming into the following summer for the 24-25 season, I think the club will probably be looking at centre halves and left backs and right backs, So yeah, keeping the starting 11. Yeah, keeping the starting 11 for next season, but just keep an eye on, on obviously what could happen in the future.
Okay, well, we're getting a lot of Rob O'Keefe, but I'm gonna stay with you for this, Ryan.
Yeah,
because your point there of the club's going to be starting to think about things. And there's only a year between Costas and Robbo. Robbo's what, 28 now, and I think Costas is 27. So if surgery is needed, where do you put Costas in this? Is he in your first 11 rotation loans, sell or give away? Do you look to sell him to bring in someone younger and develop him up, or do you go, do you know what, we'll keep this for another year and maybe do it the year after? Where are you with Costas?
Obviously, loan is never going to be in the option because you're not going to loan someone of that age who's played his men's football. So a loan is pointless. However, if there is a potential of a straight swap, say for example, you can get £8 million for Tsimikas and you've got an £8 million left back who's 23, 24 lined up, and it makes sense, then you are probably looking at a sell. However, I just feel like there's like the comment. I just feel like there's bigger issues than prioritising left back. And again, if it's going to be under the current model going into the summer, I get the idea of raising funds, but you also can't leave your squad short. And Robertson's getting older, not younger, so you're going to have to manage his minutes. So for me, he'd be a rotation, a rotation left back.
And Phil, do you agree? And if you do, what's the amount of money a club would have to pay for you to go sell?
You'd be looking at least 10, 15 million. The problem is, I don't think left back is a position we need to be looking at. Like, he's a good cover as Tsimikas, to be quite honest, and if he's happy enough to stay as a backup, which I think he is potentially, there's no harm in him staying there. But if someone was to come in with 15 million, you would have to consider. But we have way worse problems in other positions to improve before left back, to be honest.
Okay, so we're going to do right backs next, and then we'll do the 4 centre backs in one go. So the first right back is obviously we've got Trent, which is first 11 rotation, loan, sell or give away. Ryan, where are you on Trent? I mean, are you buying into the media narrative, or do you look at the stats and go, do you know what, he's the best right back in the world?
Nonsense. I wouldn't say he's been the best right back in the world this season, obviously, but at the end of the day, when you set a standard for yourself so high, you also set the measurement for others of yourself so high. We're very quick to say to younger players who maybe haven't had a glimmering start to their career but have shown spells. We're very quick to say, well, they just need development, they need time because they're young. However, Trent has set a consistency level and a bar so high that it's all of a sudden like he's some seasoned 27, 28-year-old pro. And all those mistakes should be ironed out of his game. You're still ironing out mistakes in your game when you're 27, 28, 29, let alone the lad's still below 23, still under 23. There is no issues for me whatsoever with the right back situation, bar obviously the backup right back will come on to. But for me, no, Trent, and I'm sure you both agree in the comments, I'd agree, Trent is a starting right back.
Oh, sorry, I was reading a comment from Chris, which do you know what, Phil? If you're a Trent in, but Chris has got this, Trent, sell next season. He is an asset and will not work in the new system. It's proven this season. 100 million, Bosch, get rid of Trent. Is there an amount of money that could make you sell Trent?
Absolutely not. No. There's no possible way I could see us ever selling Trent. Like, Trent is a future Liverpool captain. To be real here, he's going to be here for years to come. I couldn't see him leaving. So, out of a whole squad, Trent's probably one of the only players I could say is staying for like many, many years to come. And I don't even think he'd want to leave, to be honest. He's grown up at the club. I don't see any want to leave, and I don't see any need for anyone in the club to get rid of him either. So no, 100% stay. Even particularly maybe 300 million for an offer to be considered, in my opinion, really.
It's a hot take, Chris. I like it. I think, though, when you start to look at the stats, I'll die on a soapbox for Trent anytime. His tackle success rate's better than Reece James, who everyone says is a better defensive player than him. So, that's not proven. And then when you look at the tackle statistics for Henderson and Elliott, who've been playing right central midfielder, they're in the lowest quartile in the Premier League. So you have a free roll right wing, a free roll right back, and a right central midfielder that can't tackle. And that's not I don't blame Elliott because he's not a right central midfielder. Henderson just runs at people like he's going to press them and doesn't make the tackle at the moment. Really, it's Trent's been exposed by a hole in midfield for me. And I think when you actually dig into his stats, he's infinitely better than anyone else out there. So for me, it's a keep. I have got my list, and I'll share my list at the end. Obviously, we're going through these guys' options at the moment, but we're all on the Trent stay. But I like the hot take, Chris. This is what we're here for. You know, Anthony, he'll win the Ballon d'Or in a few years.
Hope so.
Possible.
Here's hoping. Now we move on to our second right back. And you know what? I'm going to bring a little bit of Joe Gomez into this conversation as well, because he plays right back as well. Ramsey. Phil, do you keep him? Do you sell him? Rotation player alone, or do you just give him away because he's not really broken through?
I haven't seen enough of him to really judge him, to be honest. Like I'm not sure. Has he played again? Has he come on in the Prem this year? I don't think he has.
I think he came on in the Cup, didn't he?
Yeah, so like we haven't really seen enough of him. So potentially maybe loan him. I don't think he's ready for the Premier League. If he had been, he'd been playing. So I think he's clearly not ready. The problem is we didn't have a backup right back, so he was just sort of thrown in there. But he's, because of injuries, not even really got that chance. So I would probably loan him before getting rid of him. Maybe see how he does on loan first, and then if he performs well on loan, give him another chance. But no, he definitely needs to leave next season, and we need to get someone else in who's a bit more experienced. I think Connor Bradley would be a good shit as the
backup. Yeah. There's the Davies as well, the youngster who was playing in pre-season. He looked exactly the same type of player as Trent. Quick, aggressive, driving forward with the ball. Where are you in this, Ryan?
I'm the same. I think he needs a loan. I watched a little bit of him last season at Aberdeen. Because I don't mind a bit of Scottish footy, and I was intrigued at how attacking he can be for such a young age. So I was happy when we signed him for a decent amount of money as well. However, for me, it is a loan because I have a feeling that Liverpool are going to look at centre-halves this summer, but more opportunistic ones. So if there's a decent centre-half on a free or something like that, or we can raise some money from elsewhere. So I can see a situation next season where it's Gomez and Trent who are the right backs. And Joe takes that similar role as he does, where he floats in between both. So I think that'll free up the opportunity for a loan move for Calvin Ramsey. I mean, Tyler Morton's obviously benefited really well this season from having won at Blackburn. So why you can't do it with someone like Calvin Ramsey? Just because you signed him, doesn't mean he has to go straight into the starting 11, does it? So I think a loan would be hugely beneficial for his game.
So I think we're agreed. We're going to loan Ramsey. So does that mean our backup is Gomez? Is he rotation? Or, before we get into the centre-backs, because obviously Gomez is a right centre-back. He's just got a new contract.
Yeah.
So where are you on Joe Gomez? First 11, rotation, loan, sell or give away? Maybe now he's signed a contract, he's got some resale value. Yeah,
you see, the thing with Joe Gomez is sometimes he's really, really good, and then other times he has like football disaster class. Like today, I'd almost say he was responsible for their goal. He just had no football awareness. But I say keep him because, first of all, he's homegrown, so that's quite important. So rotate would be something for him. Rotate and right back, and obviously he's good to have in rotational centre back. So because he can play in more than one position, I definitely say keep for rotation purposes.
For you, Ryan?
Well, obviously, like I just said, I feel like he might play that backup right back. However, in my opinion, and this is probably maybe a little bit more based around if we have new owners, with a bit more money, I'd look at that potential of selling him because I feel like because of the new contract, you've got a really decent resale value. Homegrown quota obviously helps as well for a lot of clubs. I feel like you could probably demand around £25 to £30 million for him in the current market. And we've had a tendency in the past to not sell players who have, a sort of like a debate of whether they're good enough or not when they've reached their sort of like their highest value. I remember we had an opportunity to sell Origi after the Champions League final for £25 to £30 million. And I was probably one of the only ones who was crying out for us to do it, not because I don't like Origi. It just felt like, well, this is the highest value you're going to get for this player. they're probably never going to raise above it, but they can drastically decrease. And for me, Joe falls under that category at the moment. If he's never going to go and raise above what he is right now with the contract length and playing more minutes this season because of Van Dijk and Matty, but the value can drastically decrease when everyone's back fit, and then we go into the next season and he's a backup right back behind Trent if Trent finds his form again. So I feel like it's an opportunity where you can get 25 to 30 million pounds for a player who, again, is probably going to play below 20 games next season, especially if we're out of Europe.
It's really interesting. I think a lot of people have said Gomez back up. For me, the more I think about it, the more I start to think Gomez might be a right centre-back in a back three. That might be his skill, where he makes a mistake and he's got cover and stuff like that, because he's might not be consistent enough to play in a two. Where did we land? Can't remember. Do you know what? We're going to put a pin in him. He might get sold. It depends if the offer's right. Let's say that it's not a loan. We'd keep him and happily keep him. But if the right offer came in, maybe.
I look like a Leicester situation at the moment. They're dying out for a centre half, and especially right centre half. He feels like a Leicester signing to me. He fits the homegrown quota. They like that ballpark of 15 to 25 million pound players. And again, to be honest with you, for a Leicester or someone like that, Joe Gomez is not a bad signing for that kind of value. And if say for example you get 25 million pound for him, and you've also got 70,000 pound off the wage bill, you then have a decent little pot, whether it goes to a midfielder or whether it his wages and a little bit of his value goes onto a free transfer, and then you pay a signing on fee. Do you know what I'm saying? I just feel like there's more to gain from selling the asset than there is keeping him around. If it's, again, like I said, if we're out of Europe next season, because you are looking at limited games.
There's no big consensus in the chat. We don't agree. I think Joe Gomez may be one that we have to do a poll on further down the road. But we're going to move on to the three centre-backs. The three remaining centre-backs is Virgil van Dijk, Konate, and Joel Matip. And Phil, I'm going to ask you to tell me, of those three, who makes your first 11? Do any of them go into rotation? Do any of them get sold? Because I don't think you're going to loan them. Or do you give any of them away?
Okay, well, Van Dijk and Konate should be the ones that are starting when fit. Matip, if an offer came in for Matip, I'd probably say sell, but just because there's probably a younger option out there, and that's just the way our model works. So one of the older centre-backs is going to have to be sold, and he does get injured quite a lot. So if the right offer came in, I would say take the money and go buy someone else, to be honest. Because let's remember, we're not going to be selling Van Dijk anytime soon, and Konate fits the bill. He's young and he's going to improve. So out of the three, keep Van Dijk and Konate, and I would be for selling Matip if the right offer came through.
Ryan, are you the same?
Yeah, absolutely bang on with Phil. And I think if you don't sell him this summer, I think he's out of contract, isn't he, the following season? Looking at, a 32-year-old centre half who's probably going to go down to fourth or fifth choice come that following season after the next. If you can get anything close to £10 million for him, for a player on his last year of his contract to 31, I think you absolutely snap their hand off for it, really, because that is decent value for the scenario that it is.
So, I'm going to go back on the Joe Gomez and Matip thing, seeing as we're on the sell and sell, because you need depth. No, I'm not. I'm going to do Nat Phillips. Before we decide what we're doing with our centre-backs, we're going to cover Nat Phillips. Is it your first 11 rotation, loan, sell, or give away? Ryan?
I think if we're playing in the San Siro week in, week out, he's the starting 11, isn't he? But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go this window, let alone next window. So, for me, again, you're sat on this January transfer window, you probably sat on 10 mil, and then going into the summer, you probably sat on another £5 million asset there. And I think I know if we were to sell Matip, Gomez, and Nat Phillips, you are looking short. But then all of a sudden you've freed up wages, you've got some transfer money into then go and sign a centre half, and you've got the ability to promote one of the younger centre halves that could potentially take that position. You've got the likes of Jarell Kwanzaa, you've got Sepp van der Berg, Billy Camatio. You've got a few who could play that fourth choice / fifth choice centre half. So yeah, like I said, I'd sell Nat because I think he'll go this window, to be honest. So if he's not here if he's still here by next window, I think the club will definitely be looking to try and make a little bit of money on him.
So we're selling Nat Phillips. Are we selling Nat Phillips, Phil?
100%. No, I couldn't put it better. Like at this point, he doesn't get a game any week. He's not even. I don't think he makes the bench anymore, and he is fit. So no, 100% sell because gets a bit of money and wages off the bills. So 100% sale.
Okay. So we're potentially selling Joe Gomez, Joel Matip, Nat Phillips, which leaves us with, like you said, a couple of youngsters. Does that mean we all expect Sepp van der Berg to be in the rotation next year? Is that what you're both saying? Or is it sell one or the other of Joe Gomez or Matip, but not both?
I think there's a slight argument to come into it on our ownership status as well, isn't there? If it's still FSG funding the summer transfer window, then the likelihood is we won't get rid of any centre halves bar Nat Phillips purely because we won't be able to fund or have the capabilities of doing a mass rebuild like that.
Yeah.
However, if it is the reported Qataris who are showing interest in things, if you're talking with a like a Chelsea kind of transfer fund, I would not be surprised to see a huge overhaul. So I think regarding that question, you do have to take the ownership into account. However, if it is FSG, and we'll go with FSG for the purpose of the question, then yeah, I think it's sell one of Gomez and Nat Phillips. I think it'll probably be whoever gets the better value. And then it'll be a case of Matip runs down his contract. We tend to, as a club, see more value in keeping a player and letting them run out and then leave, rather than selling them for a small fee and then trying to find decent value in the market. So I would not be surprised to see Matip stay and run his contract to the end. And then whoever brings in a better value of Nat Phillips and Joe Gomez is sold under the current FSG model.
Well, we've got to assume we're currently under that model. However, obviously we know we're for sale, so we're kind of in no man's land. Is that where you're at, Phil? You sell one, or if not both. Sepp van der Berg deserves a chance. He's obviously played well enough in the Championship to get in that sort of squad.
I couldn't see us selling both. Definitely not. It'll be one or the other for sure. Matip or Gomez. Probably whoever can give us the most return on it. But if we were to sell one, I wouldn't have a problem with that, to be honest. One or the other would be the way I would look at it. Yep.
Okay. So far, I think I agree with you when it comes to the defenders and stuff like that. I think everyone that I've got in my first 11, you guys have put in your first 11 so far. Squad, I've done the same. We're going to move on to the creaking midfield. And I say creaking because, well, it is. Now, we're not going to cover Bajcetic because I think he's staying, or he might get a loan. He wasn't in the sort of the form that we filled in, and he's been playing well, so the guy deserves to stay around for a bit longer. But I am going to start with Fabinho. I think, for me, how Klopp's tried to change the system has really sort of highlighted the flaws in how Fabinho plays his game, and he's really struggling with us. Phil, getting to the transfer window, what do you do with him? Is he in your first 11? Is he in your rotation? Do you sell him? Or
I think it's time to get rid of him, to be honest with you. I don't think he's fully ever recovered from his injury, and like week in, week out, he's performing really bad. Like, I mean, he came on today within 2 minutes. He should have been sent off. Like, that was a dreadful tackle, and that would have summed up a season, because that is exactly the way he plays. He's just rash, and he just doesn't cope with the pace. So if an offer comes in, which I don't really know who would want to be buying him, but if an offer did come in, absolutely take it and run. Get as much money as you can for him and get someone else in, because there's definitely better options out there at the minute. So
we are selling Fabinho. We've got Selfab in the chat. Got Phil saying sell Fab. Ryan, are you putting the name in the coffin?
I think you have to, don't you? I was having this debate in a group chat of mine a couple of weeks ago of that if you surround a Fabinho with more energy around it, then there's a likelihood you get a better Fab. You know, pace and yardage has never been his game. It's always been reading the game with two energetic midfielders next to it. However, there feels a different aura around him now. You know, it feels like he's half done with the situation, and there's sort of a sense of that regardless if you had energy around him or not, that the Premier League's pace is just way past him now, and it's a shame because I personally thought he did all right after he came back from the World Cup. I thought Manchester City had a decent cameo, and then I thought Aston Villa he played okay, and then it was the third game against. He missed the Leicester, didn't he, because of the birth, and then it was his third game after he came back in, and you know he's played some minutes here and there, and he was dire away at Brentford, and you're just thinking like you've only played a few minutes and you've had a rest, but you're looking like you're absolutely done in for. And, you know, and you've just gone away to the World Cup where you've only played, I think it was like 30 minutes or something like that. That shouldn't be happening. That's a really worrying sign, because that's not a case of you just need time off after last season's, you know, excursions. This is a case of you're just done. Like, you know, the legs are gone. The Italian league or the Bundesliga is crying out for that man, in my opinion. So, again, yeah, it's an asset that you're sitting on. If you can get a decent amount of money, you probably sell. If we've already got priorities elsewhere for midfielders, then he's rotation at best, isn't he? He can't be starting the Premier League for us next season. So yeah, I'm gonna go for sell. I'll put the nail in the coffin.
So Fab sold. How much? Either of you? How much do you think we get for him?
How long has he got left on his deal?
Couple of years.
Yeah, I think if the City had or a Bundesliga team, like I said, came along with 15 million, 20 million, you'd probably take that, wouldn't you? That wouldn't be bad money, and it probably puts it into the kitty towards a Manu Kone or someone of that ilk, doesn't it? So, yeah, at 20 mil, I think the club would be made up with.
So the next player on the list we've got is Naby Keita. Now he's got 4 or 5 months left. There's rumours that he's getting a new contract. I mean, if I'm honest with both of you, I don't think that anyone's getting a new contract. I think they're building a bank of wages that can be invested in the squad for new owners, so that they can go out and buy whoever they want without having to dip into their own purse, because that's how they're trying to sort of build wage. But given where we're at now, given, you know, how well he played today, you know, he did some good work in the midfield today. Where are you at with Naby Keita? Is he in your first 11, rotation, loan? I don't think you can sell him because he's got no value. If you're going to get rid, you're letting him go for free. You're giving him away. What do you do, Phil?
Give him away for free. At this point, he's that inconsistent. He's made of glass. Like, he's injured way more than he is fit in the season. He's just become maybe one of the biggest waste of money we've ever spent. Like 52 million, I think we spent on him. Like a complete waste of money. He's never ever fulfilled the potential that, you know, he was shown before he joined. And I think at this point it's just get rid now and just let him go for free. To be honest, I wouldn't want him to sign a contract, to be quite honest.
So we're giving away the player, Ryan, that Steven Gerrard gave his number to, handed him the shirt, said, "You're the next to me."
Yeah.
Phil's just like, nah, just let him go. He's had his payday. Get rid. Are you on the same page?
I am, but I don't think getting rid of Naby is footballing reasons. I think we've seen enough of him last season and at parts this season. There's clearly a footballer in there. However, someone worked it out the other day that he's cost Liverpool over his time at the club just under £1 million a game when you take into wages, agent fees, and the transfer fee. Costing someone £1 million a game for the output that he's given, it's just not a good enough business model, let alone a footballing model. So he's. I think there was a report the other day that he's on 124,000 a week. So I'd imagine the haggling over the new contract is probably the decrease in wages. I'd want him to be taking half of that for the output that you get and the availability you get. And he's realistically, he's not going to sign a new contract for £60-odd million, is it? 60-odd thousand pound a week, is he? So
definitely not.
Yeah, I think unless he takes a drastic pay cut, or we get new owners where money is no object and they just throw the book at everything. Yeah, I think he's definitely going in the summer.
So one of you two can break it to Anthony. Favorite player that you just booted him out of the club for nothing. He's worth nothing to us. And he frees up number 8, dude.
Unless we put him on a new deal, 2 years, still on the same wages, but we'll put a buyout clause of like 30 million, hoping someone activates it. Some mad business like that. I just don't see the value in keeping him, unfortunately.
Do you know what? We're going to keep this kick players out the club thing going. Oxlade-Chamberlain. Ryan, you keeping him around? Or
nah, new 5-year deal. New 5-year deal for Ox. Give him a testimonial with us. Listen, I like Ox. I think one thing that a lot of people don't appreciate is the personality that is around the changing room. And I don't mean that in the sense of he's a leader. You can just tell he's a humble guy. But more importantly, setback after setback after setback, and he's still there, still applies himself, still turns up to training. When he's on the pitch, he might not be the best player, we know that, but he's still grafting away. If there's one player in this Klopp tenure who could probably have the right to have a little moan and have a little kick off at game time and things like that, Ox is probably the player, because he was so integral in our start of our legacy under Klopp that, it's an ACL injury, of course, and then the season we won the Premier League, he was our highest goal-scoring midfielder. He's done some good things. There is a sense of, well, yeah, I'm not as bad as you're making it out to be, kind of thing. However, again, it's another player where there's just no value, is there? There's no value to sign a new deal. There's no real value to taking up a squad position bar the homegrown quota. And at the end of the day, he's probably going into next season being 7th or 8th choice. You've got the likes of a Tyler Morton who could do that kind of role, who's homegrown as well. So, yeah, I think, again, he's another one who they'll just let the contract run out. And, at the end of the day, we tried to sell him to Newcastle, didn't we, last summer, and he didn't accept it. So, yeah, I think the club will just let that one run its course.
I feel for Ox a little bit, Phil, because I remember when he first signed and he came in at central midfielder and he was playing in the Champions League and he was really stamping his authority on the game, and then he got injured, and I don't think he ever came back the same player again after that first ACL injury.
No, he didn't.
He could have had a great career.
Like, it was, what was that? Was it the Roma game? Like, he did that because he was class up to that point. In fairness, he was performing consistently each week, and then unfortunately that happened. I don't see the club giving him a new contract, and at this point he has just become a wee bit unreliable, with injuries, because he keeps get the recurrent injury. So no, I would give him away for free. I did read apparently that Brighton would take him if we were to give him away for free now, but maybe we should try and get Caicedo in as a wee bargaining chip, but I doubt that will happen as well.
Okay, next one. We're going to try and stick with the giveaway for free, unless you want this guy around the changing room, because he could have a positive impact on how we play. We've got James Milner. Does he make it to the year of 38 playing for Liverpool Football Club, Phil?
See, obviously he's nowhere near like starting 11 standard, but for the sheer experience level, and if he was willing, I don't know if he is on a big wage or not, but if he was willing to take like a wage cut, maybe become like a player coach potentially, I'd happily keep him around, to be honest, because he's a good name to have there, and like you seen him I think didn't he turn up to a cup game when the kids were playing, and he was the only senior player there behind him. So when you've got people, when he does something like that, I would rather keep him, because there's no point trying to sell him. He's like, what age is he? 37 now, is he? 38. Yeah, I would just keep him for the experience level, to be honest.
Is that nostalgic? Could you be investing that money in Other players, really, if he's on a 100, was he on 120 grand a week before?
Something like that, yeah.
Do you keep him for that? Is experience worth that?
I mean, they say experience can be invaluable, don't they? So, it's hard to put a price tag on that. I think a James Milner sticking around could actually hinge on whether we get Europa League or UEFA Conference League. If we're in that Europa League or that Conference League, I think, again, there's game time there for him. I'm trying to see it from a player's point of view. I am 110% certain that the club will offer him a new deal. And I'm pretty sure that there'll be some form of coaching badges / under 15s, under 16s coaching role within that, as Phil alluded to. I think for him, though, he's still a professional. He could probably go to Leeds and do it. Do his last year at Leeds. So I feel like he'll look at it. I feel like he'll look at it from a playing point of view and think, right, well, I'm not going to be playing in the Premier League week in, week out. I know that. Is there a chance for game time? League Cup, yeah. FA Cup, depending on your draw, yeah. If you're in that Conference League, James Milner should be one of your midfielders in that Conference League. Do you know what I mean? On a Thursday night. So, yeah, I think it hinges on what we qualify for if we do. If it was me personally, though, I'd 110% offer him a new deal. I think that experience around the dressing room and he said, like Robertson said in the recent Liverpool podcast he did about James, saying that he sets the standards day in, day out at 38. I think it makes sense for me to offer him a new deal if he is that influential within the current dressing room.
Chris makes a really good point. So far, we have got rid of Naby Keita, we have got rid of Oxlade-Chamberlain, we have got rid of Fabinho. So our midfield currently consists of James Milner in the Europa Conference League. Let's go to some of the midfielders that I think we may keep, and we're going to do three at once so that we're not here all night. You've got Thiago, Henderson, and Harvey Elliott. First 11, rotation, sell, giveaway. Of those three, Ryan, where are you putting them?
I think Thiago is a start, and I think Henderson and Elliott go to that rotation role. I think the manager's firmly got it in his thinking next season that, Konate, Jude, and Nunes will be the spine. So it's about having that quality and experience around them. So I think it makes absolute sense to start Thiago alongside, hopefully, a Moises Caicedo or something like that, in that slight double pivot thing we do. And then you've got your Henderson who takes your James Milner role, bit part, leadership, things like that. And then Elliott, again, I think he's rotation more in the sense of I don't think he'll be a centre midfielder next season. I think he'll play more off the wings and / coming into the 10 position. So, yeah, again, Harvey Elliott's a potentially wonderful footballer. So, yeah, continue the development with a rotation role for me.
Yeah, I agree with Harvey Elliott. I think he's got to develop his quick thinking because he doesn't have quick pace. A little bit like the Suso problem that he had when he was playing for Liverpool. He couldn't break through because he didn't have that massive pace, but he wasn't a central midfielder. He was kind of a winger. Phil, those three, Thiago, Henderson, Elliott. Ryan said Thiago first 11, rotation for Henderson and Harvey Elliott.
I would agree with all three, to be fair. Thiago definitely starts because he's just magic. Elliott, I don't really know what position he plays in, to be honest. Like, I don't know if he's a centre mid or if he's a left winger, right winger. I think that they need to work out where to play him because he keeps getting put in different positions, and I think that's slightly hindering him. But that's not his fault. Our midfield's a shambles at the minute. Jordan Henderson, 100% rotate because he is getting on in years. I would say if an offer did come in for Jordan Henderson, like a reasonable offer, I think they would have to consider it, to be honest, because he is getting on in years. Now, obviously, he's the captain. I wouldn't want to see him go. But if an offer came in and, we were able to get, build for the future, I'd maybe consider the offer, to be quite honest.
Okay, so I think we're all agreed. We're keeping Thiago starts. The other two, rotation. We want to limit Henderson's minutes because, obviously, he doesn't have the legs. So we're talking, what was the Milner run, which is the last 10 minutes to just kick into people. and annoy them and disrupt a game. That's basically all we want Henderson to do. However, that didn't really work out today against Brighton. But let's not worry about that. We're going to talk about... Neil made a really good point earlier. And I know, obviously, that's not the point that you were making, Neil, which is we've kicked out a lot of homegrown players. So we're missing out on a few homegrown players. So I'm going to cover some more. I'm calling them midfielders because I think they can play 10 and I think they could play in midfield and on the wing and stuff like that. Is we've got the two that we've got here is we've got Curtis Jones and we've got Fabio Carvalho. Phil, first 11, rotation, loan, scout, or give away for those two.
Curtis Jones, I think he needs. I think I'd like to see him leave on loan to see how he gets on at a different club, like and maybe another Prem club or top championship club. He's not up to the standard of Liverpool, to be honest. So I mean, if an offer was to come in, I would say sell, but I would like to see him going on loan first to see how that would maybe help him develop. But I don't see him being anywhere near the Liverpool starting 11 anytime in the future. If I'm being honest with you, Carvalho, he's a young fella and needs. I think he might maybe need a loan because again, he isn't getting the opportunities under. So potentially, would loan both of those players, to be honest.
Ryan?
I think Fabio definitely needs a loan. I think there's even rumours of we were looking like we were going to loan him this window to Fulham if he didn't have this knock. So I think the club have probably shown their hand a little bit about the intentions with him. It just feels like a strange signing in general, to be honest. Signing Carvalho, I get the quality and things like that. It's just doesn't seem where I don't see where he goes. And then Jones, I think you keep around for rotation purely because if you get rid of a Jones on loan and the Carvalho on loan, you're looking at an even bigger overhaul than what we're going to be able to fund in the summer. So I think the club's hand will actually be forced when it comes to Curtis Jones in the sense of we're going to have to keep him around for one homegrown quota and two just to make up numbers. I think if the club had the possibility to send him on loan, then they'd probably look at it. Like I said, I just think their hands are going to be tied because of the three lads who are leaving on a potentially on a free, and the players that they're probably looking at, like a Fabinho, of thinking, right, well, we could probably get a bit of value there. Because the reality is, we're not going to let four midfielders go and bring four midfielders in without selling. Bearing in mind, three of them are going on a free under FSG's model, are we, if we're going to be honest. So I think their hands are going to be tied to keep Curtis Jones around.
I kind of agree with you. The same on Fabio Carvalho, though. I think, if we're getting rid of Big Nat, James Milner, let's say he goes, let's say Ox goes, then homegrown, we're stripped bare, aren't we? So we're going to have to keep them. And we might stifle their development because, I think that's part of the reason Big Nat's not gone yet. I know he may go soon, but just locking these players in. But then there's players like Tyler Morton that you bring in and maybe
Reece Williams.
Ben Doak might start getting more minutes as he starts to push his way through. And I should
Bajcetic as well is classed as homegrown for the Champions League, but isn't homegrown for the Premier League, which is odd. So I don't know whether it comes into account of how long you've been at a club for the Premier League, maybe, because he just qualified. He's just qualified for homegrown in the Champions League, so I'm guessing that's because of a certain time scale. So hopefully Bajcetic will be homegrown come the start of next season.
Fingers crossed. Because it'd be good to have another one in midfield. Okay, so now we've done midfield. We've kicked out some. I think some we expected. We've sold Fab. Yep. Overhaul of the midfield's on. We're not doing the overhaul of the left backs yet. We think that they can go for another year. Right backs, we think we can work it around. Might involve keeping Joe Gomez for a little bit. And centre backs, ideally, if an offer comes in, then we'll make a change. But really, it's not an urgent priority. Now we're going to look at the forward line. And I'm going to start with central strikers. I think we've got three probable central strikers, maybe four actually. You've got Cody Gakpo, you've got Darwin Núñez, you've got Diego Jota, and you've got Bobby. Of those four, Phil, who's in our first 11, who's in rotation, who goes out on loan, who do we sell, and do we give Bobby away because his contract's running out?
Well, Corey Gakpo's only just joined, so I don't foresee him going anywhere in the future, and I think he needs time to settle in, which he did show a good bit of potential today. Bobby Firmino, if they were offering him a contract that it was on less wages, I'd absolutely keep him, but that's another thing where if he was to go and his wages were to free up, that means we can maybe get somebody else in to replace him, because I love Bobby, but it's maybe potentially approaching the time where we move him on. Darwin Núñez, hopefully he'll be class next season. He just needs a bit more time to settle in. And who was the other one down the middle? Did you say, sorry?
Jota.
Oh, Jota, of course, yeah. See, I would more see him as a winger sometimes, but I don't see Jota going anywhere. Once he's back fit, he would almost nearly be in the starting 11. So just one of them, Bobby, is the only one I would say is maybe time to move on.
Okay, and of the other three, Núñez, Jota, and Gakpo, first 11 or rotation? Or where are you putting them?
Núñez starts next season. Gakpo is definitely, I would see, as a rotation option. And Jota potentially rotate as well, depending, because he might be put on the wing. So depending on what obviously we have available. But I think Núñez is probably the one to start, simply because he's obviously, we paid so much money for him potentially.
Jota sell injury prone. Wow. He has one season. He's the top scorer last year in the Premier League.
I don't agree with that, to be
I
honest.
love it, Chris. I love hot takes. Ryan, where are you on these four?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one from Chris, because we're all on Twitter demanding that the manager's more ruthless. Well, we've got to be more ruthless as fans, then, haven't we, in our opinions? And that brings me on to Bobby, because anyone who knows me knows Bobby Firmino is my favourite player, especially during the whole Klopp era. I just absolutely love him. I feel like if you want to learn about the game of football, all you need to do is watch Bobby Firmino. He will teach you everything there is to know about football, defending, passing, shooting, whatever it is. But we're after being ruthless, and it's a player that you can't depend upon. It's a player that's going to be sixth choice attacker who's probably on around 130, 140 bags a week. Yeah, if not more. If you can get that, if you can set that off the wage bill and bring in a young, 23, 24-year-old
Matoma.
Yeah, a Matoma. If you can bring in a Matoma, something like that, if you've got the money to spend, or even if you look around, the market of free players and things like that, and you can bring someone in on lower wages who can fill fifth or sixth choice player, I feel like that's one that you have to do. And I get Jurgen loves him, and I get the whole dropping for the ball, leading the press, things like that. However, is he going to be playing a lot next season if we're out of Europe? No. Is that a lot of wages that are being offset for a player who's who's just giving us what we need in training? Yes, it probably is. So, yeah, for me, Bobby is one of them where if there is a suitable replacement lined up that works for the club financially, I think they'll let him go. And then I agree with Phil in the sense of Núñez starts for me through the middle, Jota rotation, and who was the other one? Gakpo. Yeah, and Gakpo again. I think Gakpo's just starting through the middle due to injuries at the moment. I think long term he might be the Bobby replacement. However, I feel like we will shift to a more 4-4-2/4-2-3-1. So I won't be surprised to see him in left wing / the number 10 in the future. So yeah, Núñez start, those two rotate, and then if you can get a suitable replacement lineup for Bobby, I think you have to call it a day. Unfortunately,
it's coming, Neil. It's coming. Just bear with me. It's coming. Okay. So, next season so far, what we've got is we've got Alisson we've locked in. We've got Trent we've locked in the starting 11. We've got Robbo locked in the starting 11. We've got Thiago locked in the starting 11. Van Dijk.
Canate
was... But yes, he was.
Yeah, both said start. Yeah,
both 11. So we've got 6 players already in place. Now there's a couple more, and we're going to talk wingers.
Mm-hmm.
And this might tell us where we really need to invest as a club. Once we've got these other players, we've got Luis Diaz, we've got Mohamed Salah. I've seen some sell Salah recently. We've got Ben Doak, we've got Cade Gordon, and and obviously we've got Gakpo and Nunes and others that can play there, but there are 4 main wingers. First 11, rotation, loan, sell, giveaway. Ryan. Salah.
Yeah, so I think Salah. I think for me, Salah still starts. I get the criticism that he's come under, and by the way, it's completely due. You know, he's not been good enough for a while now in the sense of his overall game. Stats still are all right, to be fair, for goals and assists, but you know, in the current moment of Liverpool Football Club, we're needing a lot more than just that. However, there was a heat and touch map that I saw the other day on Twitter, which was a comparison from last season and this season. Heat map's the same, similar positions in and around the pitch. However, his receiving of the ball in those areas has gone down hugely. Like, so, you know, Salah has always been a high percentage player in the sense of he needs lots of touches, he needs lots of chances to stat pad. So if you're cutting down a player who requires high volume, if you're cutting down his volume, you're going to get a lesser player. You know, that's just obvious. But I still think he starts. You know, he's still one of the best attackers in world football. And then Ben Doak and Cade Gordon, again, the same. If you can get them loans, it'd be absolutely brilliant. I think Ben Doak's 110% ready for a loan. He's been playing in the Papa John's Trophy and playing really well. And then when he's featured for Liverpool in bit parts, he's shown that he's probably at that Harvey Elliott stage of Blackburn where he needs that loan. So I think that'd be really good if they can get that. Cade Gordon again the same, but he's coming back from a lengthy injury and similar to Diaz. For me, Diaz worries me because it's 6 months out at 26 years of age for a player that's never really had this length of an injury before. So we don't have a clue what the reaction from that is like. So I think that question's probably a better one to answer come March and April. However, if I was to answer it right now, I would start him because before the injury, we looked like we were going to get a proper season from him, didn't we? However, you've got to wait to see how the reaction is from the injury. But yeah, from picking it right now, Diaz starts, Nunes through the middle, Salah on the right wing. I think they've only played something like 120 odd minutes together in that actually as well, which is a shame. And then Cade and Doak, go and get yourselves a loan.
For me, I'd write off this season for Diaz. I'd just build him into a machine for next season. Maybe some minutes towards the end of it, you know, if we do well in the Champions League. What about for you, Phil? We're talking Salah, Diaz, Doak, and I've completely forgotten. Oh, Cade Gordon, sorry.
So Salah 100% starts. I can see why people maybe are getting annoyed with him this season because he hasn't been performing. But I think once we fix the midfield problem, that'll then give him more supply. And then obviously we'll see Salah come good again. I mean, if it comes to the end of next season and he's still not performing, then you could potentially talk about selling Salah at that point. But definitely not yet. It's too soon to be doing that. Diaz has 100% starts because once he got injured, you know, we very clearly lacked pace. And that's what we were used to, you know, just bombing forward, and we've missed him and John have missed on that count, to be honest with you. So Diaz starts, Salah starts, and Ben Doak definitely needs a loan because he showed potential, but obviously he's not quite at the level to be playing week in, week out. So a top tier loan, maybe in the Championship or the Prem would do him right now. And who's the other one you mentioned?
Cade Gordon.
I mean, I think he's probably probably on the loan level as well. I don't think they're anywhere near the level to be starting week in, week out, but definitely a loan should help them out. But Diaz and Salah definitely start.
I'm shocked. For me, I think Ben Doak is one of those. I think he's young enough, he's good enough type. I think his levels seem to be rising up. I think he could be a rotation player for us next season behind Salah. But if a good loan comes in from a good, well-structured club, you wouldn't be against it, would you? So we've pretty much worked out where we need to sign a player for next season because we've pretty much nailed our first 11 down, which is Alisson, Trent, Konate, Van Dijk, Robertson. A back five is sorted. Up front, Nunes, Salah, Diaz. We're all agreed. Midfield, Thiago. space. That's where we're missing. That's where we've identified that we need someone. And then we've got squad players as Kostas, Jota, potentially Matty. We might need another central midfielders. Henderson, Harvey Elliott, Milner. We want to keep around for European Conference games. Players like Sepp van der Berg, maybe Jones and Carvalho stay if we need English quota. If not, we try and get them loans. But we've pretty much tried, I think, to get that down. So if you've got the space there for 2 midfielders in your starting 11, gents, we'll close it off this way. And please, if you're new here, put like and subscribe to the channel. But also, we've identified we need 2 central midfielders. Who are the 2 that turn this Liverpool team back into top 2 contenders? Phil, I'll start with you.
Well, it's pretty obvious Jude Bellingham, but that really all depends if we can fork the money out for him. This really all depends on if we do sign him, because if we do sign him, then we could get somebody else in who's a little less expensive. But if we do miss out on Jude Bellingham, which I think it's sort of 50-50 and depends on what competition we're in, then, you could put that money towards 2 or 3 other good midfielders. But Jude Bellingham, definitely, and sort of see who's available at the time to go beside him. A player like Casey would be brilliant, but he might be going in this window. But someone along those lines, someone who can play like the Gini Wijnaldum role, because I don't ever think we properly replaced Gini Wijnaldum. We let him go for free, and we never really brought someone in to replace him, and that actually has cost us in the past couple of years. It's pretty obvious to see that, I think.
So Jude Bellingham, Thiago, they're 2 box-to-box midfielders. Who's your defensive midfielder? Someone that plays like Wijnaldum.
Along those lines, someone who can someone who can drop back in, someone who gives a bit of defensive cover. But I mean, it really all depends on the money that's available, because again, we don't know if we're going to get bought or not. This is all a sort of hypothetical thing. It depends what we have available, really, because based off experience, the owners won't give us money unless we sell, sort of thing. So,
also true. But we could be getting rid of quite a lot of wages, which give you quite a lot of transfer funds. When you take, if it's 150 grand a week, then that's 7.9 million a year. Over 5 years, that's 40 million pounds, which you could buy and do a contract for someone. If you take Caicedo's on 3k a week, obviously he wouldn't be on 3k a week for us, but you bring in someone at 40 grand as opposed to 150 grand, you've got the room to buy. And so anyway, Ryan, for you, central midfielder and a defensive central midfielder.
So
I think Thiago's taking a step back, obviously.
Yeah, so for me, I'd do it as I'd have Manu Kone and Thiago sitting, and then I'd have Jude in an advanced / number 10 role. I saw something just before we came live on Twitter about it was a Bundesliga journalist saying that whoever signs Jude Bellingham, because I think they're playing a couple of hours ago, whoever signs Jude Bellingham this summer needs to make sure they play him in an advanced role and not box to box / deeper, because you're going to stifle his capabilities. And apparently that's what Dortmund have done this season. They've put, I'm sure his name's like Zizi or Zari or something like that, and they've put a player behind Jude, let Jude go and roam in and around the opposition's box, hence obviously the influx of goals he scored this season. I think you can see from those runs as well that he made for England in the World Cup. So I think if you can replicate that, because at the end of the day, if you're spending £150 million on a player of 19 years of age and the ability that he's got, that's who you're building your team around. So get him in his best position, get him as close to your strikers, your wingers, and the opposition goal as possible, and just offer him the backbone, behind him that's needed. And a Manu Kone and a Thiago who can sit there and keep the ball, but also dispossess opponents. I think it'd just be a match made in heaven, and you've then got the likes of Jude, Salah, Diaz, and Nunes all pressing from the front as well, and we can have that as Pep Linders has spoke about it in the past. We press with a 3 and then a 7. I think the idea has been to press with more of a 4 and a 6. It's just we've not had the midfield to do it. However, if you've got Jude Bellingham in a 10 and you've got Manu Kone sitting with Thiago, you can press with that 4-6 and cause mayhem.
I tend to agree, Manu Kone, someone that is destructive and can destroy a team and has got the energy. Because as clever as Thiago is, He's not big, he's not powerful, he's not intimidating. You look at Newcastle's back four, they're all centre-backs, but you're not getting crosses and beating. I think we need a bit more energy and power in the midfield to really play the Liverpool way. So thank you everyone for that's joined and that's contributed to the chat. This has been the debate room. This has been Keep or Sell. There's not been that too many disagreements, to be fair. I think we've all identified exactly where the gap is, and I think we probably could have identified this gap at the beginning of the season. So yeah. Liverpool, new owners, FSG, whoever you may be, here's the video. Go get us 2 central midfielders, sort out everything for next year. This has been LFC Transfer Room. Thank you very much to Phil and Ryan for making your debuts on the channel, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care.
Cheers, guys.